Welcome back everyone. In this lesson, we are going to continue with the reading task in Unit 7, The Survivor in the Andes. If you did not follow my previous lesson for this reading task, you can watch the video of part 1 first before proceeding to this lesson. In this video, we are doing part 2 of the reading task. Okay, let's go through the learning objective and the success criteria. By the end of the lesson, pupils will be able to identify the main points in the text to show understanding and use a dictionary to check meaning. Success criteria: Number 1, choose the correct answers in 5 multiple choice questions. Number 2, use print or digital dictionary to check meaning of 6 words or phrases in order to complete 6 sentences. Alright, before we read the text, let's look at the word focus in your textbook that's on page 84. Okay, so these are the vocabulary that you're going to see in the text later. Okay, there are 4 words here. The first word, peak. Peak means the top of a mountain. Okay, let me show you a picture. Okay, so when you see this is the mountain, and this part of the mountain is peak, right? Okay, the next word, exhausted, means very tired. Okay, let's look at the next picture. Okay, so as you can see in these 2 pictures, this is what we call exhausted. Okay, alright, the next word, valley, an area of lowland between mountains, often with a river through it. Okay, let me show you the picture. This is what we call a valley. Okay, in between 2 mountains, and there's a very low land, and often there is a river. Okay, alright, the next word, ordeal, a very painful or difficult thing or situation. Okay, so let me show you a picture. So it's like when you need to achieve a goal, you need to go through a lot of challenges, a lot of obstacles. But often if you refer to ordeal, it means a very painful experience that you need to suffer. Okay? Okay, now let's open your textbook. Turn to page 85. We're going to look at the exam close-up before we proceed to the task. Okay, in the previous lesson, we have already done task A and task B. Today, we will do task C, D, and E. Okay, before we proceed to task C, let's read through the tips in exam close-up. These are the tips to help you to carry out your task. Okay, reading for general understanding. It's a good idea to get a general understanding of the message of the text before you complete the exam task. Read the text carefully from beginning to end without worrying about new vocabulary. This will give you a good idea of what the text is about. You know, one common mistake that most students will make is they tend to look for check for the meaning of each single word they don't understand in the text, and this will slow down the reading process, and you actually distracted from the content. Okay, so at the very beginning stage of reading, it is good that you just ignore the words that you don't understand first. Maybe you can just skip, or you can just guess the meaning. Okay, sometimes you can guess the meaning from the context, right? Okay, only later on, okay, after you finish read through the whole passage, then if it is necessary, you can check dictionary on the words that you don't understand. But at the first reading, you just need to go through it very quickly. Okay, alright, the next tip, go back to each paragraph and make notes about the main idea in each one. So when you read each of the paragraph, you need to get the main idea first. Alright, then take some time to think about all the ideas in the text before starting the exam task. Okay, So when you have a general understanding of the text, it will be easier for you to go into the detail to answer the exam task. Okay, so for this, basically, we have done this in the previous lesson, the part 1 of this reading task, where you skim through the text already. You have already skimmed through the text and figure out whether your predictions of the ending of the story is correct or not. Okay, so all of you have already skimmed through. I assume that you have already watched part 1 of the video and you have already skimmed through the whole text and you got the general idea of what the text is about. Okay? Okay, now let's open up the Google form that I have shared in the description of the video for this task. Okay, so as usual, you have to type your name and choose your class. Okay, and the pre-lesson activity, we have already gone through this in the previous parts of the lesson, and we have also done activity A, okay, activity B. Alright, so today we will do activity C, exam task. Okay, so we have gone through the exam close-up. Okay, so these are the questions that you can find in activity C, which is in your textbook also. Okay, alright, question number 1. When we are doing this kind of task, we need to find out the keywords, okay, that is in the question, in the options, and then we find out the similar keywords or key phrases in the text. Let's look at the first question. What is the writer doing in this text? So this kind of question requires you to have the general understanding of the whole text. So we have gone through we have already skimmed through the whole text in the previous lesson. So does it give advice on how to survive? It does mention about how the passengers in the flight survive in the end, but did it actually give advice to readers on how to survive? Okay, alright. B, explaining incredible past events. C, showing that air travel is dangerous. D, writing an imaginative story. Okay, so out of A, B, C, and D, which option is actually what the writer is doing in this text? Basically, what is the purpose of this text? Okay, explaining incredible past event. Does it explain something happened in the past? C, does it show air travel is dangerous? It does, but is this the main purpose of the text, telling you that it is how dangerous it is to travel in the flight? Okay, D, writing an imaginative story. Is this story an imaginative story or is it a true story? So which one is the most suitable answer? It is B. Correct. Okay, now let's proceed to the next question. Why were the 3 men disappointed? Now, this question is going to be more specific. Okay, you have to look at the part of the text which shows the 3 men disappointed. So the keyword here is disappointed. Okay, now let's find out in the text which parts of the text actually tells you that the 3 men felt disappointed. Okay, so let's go through the text together. Okay, alright. Okay, so for this one, I will give you 1 minute to skim through again the text, okay, and to find out the answer, find out which part of the text actually tells you that these 3 men felt disappointed. Okay, so I give you 1 minute from now. Okay, did you manage to find out which part of the text that it shows that they feel disappointed? Okay, alright, let's go through together. Is it in paragraph 1? Okay, no, paragraph 1 is about the air crash, right? They crash into the mountain in Andes. Okay, what about paragraph 2? Paragraph 2 have not mentioned about the 3 men yet, right? Paragraph 2 mentioned about what happened to the passengers. Some of them died. And then what about the other survivors? Okay, what is the situation of the survivor? Okay, and then the third paragraph, 2 months later. Wow, these people are really strong. They can stay there for 2 months, but they have they are waiting for the rescue team to come. Okay, but unfortunately no one managed to reach them. Okay, so only here in the third paragraph they send the 3 men. Okay, these 3 of the passengers. Okay, Roberto Canessa, Nando Parado, and Antonio Vicentin, they left to search for help. Okay, so here also mention what they bring to go for the search. Okay, and then in this paragraph, what is it about in this paragraph? Okay, so how they cope with the journey, and they have gone through some challenges, they're exhausted, but they reach it. Okay, they had imagined this moment for days on the other side of the mountain. That means they are going to reach the other side of the mountain. Okay, let me show you a picture. Okay, so they are at, okay, imagine their airplane crashed out at this part of the mountain. Okay, so they want to look for help. They are trying to go to the other side. They want to go to the other side of the mountain to see, okay, what is here. Is there any hope for them to search for help? Okay, so from the text, you can see that they managed to reach the other side of the mountain. Okay, so what did they see? On the other side of the mountain, they wanted to see. That means they have their expectation. They expected to see a valley. Like I mentioned just now, valley is the part where you see green lands, you see river. When you see this, you have hope of survival. If you see all the snow mountains like this, that means you are still far away from survival, right? Okay, so do they see valley? They wanted to see valley, and that would take them out of the mountains, but instead of a valley. Okay, so you have the phrase but instead of. Here, when you have the phrase but instead of, that means they are disappointed, isn't it? It is out of their, it's not as expected, right? Instead of they expected to see a valley, they saw more of the same snowy peaks. Lots of them. Okay, just like what is shown in this picture, lots of snowy peaks, right? They don't see any valley at all. Okay, so this is why they are disappointed. Okay, so now let's look at the Google form. Look at the question again. Okay, which one is the answer? the view from the mountain was not very good? Did they go to the other side of the mountain just to look at the view of the mountain? Okay, B, they didn't know how to return to the plane. Is that what is mentioned in the text? C, they realized they had more problems. D, they had not brought enough warm clothes. It is not mentioned in the text also. Okay, but the answer is C. They realized they had more problems because they see a lot of snowy peaks. That means they have to go through many more mountains again in order for them to see the valley. Understand? Alright, now let's proceed to the next question. Number 3. Byzantine returned to the crash site because. Okay, so now the keyword is Byzantine. One of the 3 men returned to the crash site. Okay, so we need to find out why he returned to the crash site. A, he had lost hope. B, he didn't agree with Peredor's solution. C, he didn't want to walk any further. Or D, there wasn't enough food for 3 people. Okay, so now let's find out in the text. Okay, which paragraph talk about Byzantine returning to the crash site. Okay, so we have read through paragraph 1, 2, 3, and 4. So now we continue with the next paragraph. But there was still hope. Peredor saw 2 low peaks about 65 kilometers away that didn't have snow on them. If they could get there, they would be out of the high Andes. Okay, so just now we mentioned that they were disappointed. But now in this paragraph, they see that there was still hope. Okay, alright. But to reach the peaks, they would need to walk for more days and they didn't have enough food. Okay, so it mentions here they didn't have enough food. But Peredor had a solution. Byzantine could return to the plain and he and Canessa would take his food. So very obviously, we already got the answer for this question. Why Byzantine need to return to the crash site? It is because there wasn't enough food for 3 people. Understand? Okay. Alright. Number 4. Peredor and Canessa knew they were close to safety because A, they saw things that belong to people. Okay, so here the keywords are close to safety. Okay, how do they know that they were close to safety? That means they could get help. Okay, A, they saw things that belong to people. B, they discovered a river. C, they had been walking for 10 days. D, there were flowers in the snow. Okay, let's find out in the following parts of the passage. Okay, so let's proceed to the next paragraph. Okay, let me zoom in the text for you. As they walked, the area around them slowly began to change. The man discovered a small river. Okay, the sun was warmer. Okay, so it mentions small river here. Okay, as we see in the one of the options, they discover a river. But when they discover a river, does it mean they are close to safety? Okay, not necessarily, right? Okay, let's continue reading. Because in the text, it just says that they discover small river. Okay, but it doesn't mention around here that they are going to be safe, right? Okay, the sun was warmer. After a few days of walking, the snow had disappeared completely and flowers were everywhere. So snow had disappeared and flowers were everywhere. It doesn't mean there were flowers in the snow. So D is definitely not the answer. Okay? Alright, let's continue reading. Soon they saw a few cans on the ground. If you saw cans, okay, so if you see cans, who used cans? Does animal use can? No, right? Of course, can is used by human. Okay, and then the next part. So from here, they knew there must be people somewhere nearby. Okay, so if there are people nearby, that means they could get help from the people, right or not? So they knew they were close to safety because they saw things that belong to people. They saw the cans and they saw farm animals. These are the things that belong to people. Okay? Alright, let's proceed to the next one. Number 5. Which best describes what happened to the people on Flight 571? Okay, so when you have question like this, it asks you which best describe. Okay, so it is like a summary of the whole passage. Okay, or the main idea, the main message of the whole story. Okay, so let's go through the options. A. The survivors of the crash waited for many weeks in the plane for someone to find and rescue them. Okay, this is mentioned in the first part of the story, right? Okay, in the which paragraph? You remember which paragraph? It is in the second paragraph, right? They waited for many weeks for someone to rescue them. Okay, but it is only mentioned in one paragraph. Okay. Alright, B. Tragically, 29 people died when the plane they were traveling in crashed into a mountain in the Andes. Okay, this also mentioned, this is correct, this is true. It is also mentioned 29 people died in the crash. Okay, but only one sentence of the text. Right? Okay. C. In a terrible situation and with no hope at all, the survivors found a way to save themselves. Okay, so is this true? Yes, correct. Okay, in fact, most part of the story, okay, from paragraph 3, 4, 5, 6, okay, and 7, okay, it mentioned about how they found a way to save themselves. Okay. D. To stay warm in the freezing cold, they wore the clothes of the people who had died in the crash. Is this correct? Yes, true. It is mentioned in the text also. Okay, it is in the third paragraph, right? Here, many of the clothes were from the people who had died in the crash. Okay, but it is only mentioned in this paragraph. Okay, so A, B, C, D all mentioned in the passage, but which one best described? When you want to look for which one best described, so you have to look for the sentence that the situation that mentioned in the large parts of the passage. So which one, A, B, C, or D? Of course, it is C, right? It is being mentioned in most of the paragraph. It is the main idea, main message in the whole story. So it is C. Okay? Alright. Let's proceed to the next task. Okay. In this activity, okay, you can use dictionary to find the meaning of the words first before you try to attempt the task. Okay, so there are 6 sentences here which you need to choose from these words to complete the sentences. Okay, so now there are these 6 words or phrases here. Okay, if there is any word you don't understand, you can use either a print dictionary if you have, or you can just use a digital or online dictionary to search the meaning of the words. I give you 1 minute to look for the meaning before you do the task. Okay? Okay, so have you searched a dictionary of the meaning of the words that you don't understand? Alright, okay, so I assume that now you have already understood all the meanings of all these words here. Let's try to do the question one by one. Okay, number 1. You will, okay, the car if you don't know how to drive it properly. Which word you should choose here? It is crash. Of course, you will crash the car if you don't know how to drive it properly. Okay, number 2. It is possible to in the jungle if you know how to find food. Okay, if you know how to find food, so it is possible to cope with in the jungle, search in the jungle, survive in the jungle, save in the jungle, or reach in the jungle. Of course, the answer is survive. Right? Okay, number 3. There were many problems and Harry didn't, okay, them very well. Okay, so what should you fill in here? What should you do with problem? Do you cope with problems, search problems, survive, save, crash, or reach? Of course, you have to cope with problems. Cope with problems means you have to solve the problems or you have to get use of it. Okay. D. They were in the middle of the desert, so nobody could, okay, here, nobody could save them. Correct? Okay. In fact, there are 2 answers here, or you can choose also reach. There were nobody could reach them. Right? Save or reach, both acceptable in this question. Okay, number 5. After we, you have to, this is a destination, the river, a place. We rest before we cross to the other side. What should you fill in here? Okay, after we reach the river. Okay, alright, number 6. Rescue teams will continue to, what do rescue teams do for the missing mountain climbers? They will continue to search for the missing mountain climbers. Okay, so I hope, okay, if still there are any words you don't understand, can be the words of in the sentences also. You can look for dictionary. Okay, this is a good way to learn English as well. Alright, okay, next. Okay, so idea focus, I think we have also discussed in part 1 of the video. Okay, but for those who have not done this, you can try to do this idea focus question. Do you think you would cope with the situation if you got lost in a foreign country? Why or why not? And what one thing could you not survive without? Means you cannot live without something. I cannot live without Wi-Fi. I cannot live without my handphone. I cannot live without my girlfriend, you know. Okay, so what one thing could you not survive without? Is it? Okay, and type your answer in this Google form and then submit. Okay, alright, that's all for our lesson today. Thank you very much for attending the class. Okay, and then I will see you in the next video. Bye.